After the Battle of Bunker Hill, George Washington and his army, the Continental Army, were not doing well. They had to keep retreating over and over again. And that early success and that early fervor and passion that was bought with the blood at Lexington and Concord and the blood at Bunker Hill was quickly fading, and people were starting to believe that the cause was lost, that the war could never be won, that Great Britain was this undefeatable, mighty empire that was destined to regain her colonies. And George Washington rolled the dice. He said, I'm not letting this go. I'm going to do something so crazy that nobody will expect it. See, the British, they had to help out because they were fighting other wars around the world, right? They did not have enough troops, but in previous wars they had fought alongside the Hessians, which were uh, Germanic mercenaries, people who they were paying to fight. Uh, and so, since they had allied with them before, they paid more Hessians to come over, and these Hessian soldiers were extremely well trained, very, very famous soldiers, renowned for their discipline and their competency in battle. Uh, Trenton and Princeton were places that were held and captured by these Hessian soldiers, paid mercenaries, not real redcoats. And they had a lot of ammunition and a lot of weapons, things that Washington desperately needed. So, Trenton and Princeton, these are battles that kept the cause alive. And it happened on Christmas Day, 1776. What a Christmas present for Washington to give to this young nation. General George Washington's army crossed the icy Delaware on Christmas Day in 1776, and over the course of the next 10 days won two very crucial battles of the American Revolution. If you look at this painting, there is ice, huge chunks of ice in the Delaware River. And while this painting was made years and years after the Revolution, um, scientists have gone back and they've traced back and they've looked at other records, and they figured out that while the Delaware does not normally freeze, that year it was so cold. The Delaware actually had frozen. There were massive chunks of ice in it. Because it was so ridiculously cold, the Hessians, General Howe, and the British Army, they all thought there's no way there's going to be any fighting. Everyone's going to hunker down for the winter and they'll wait for spring, right? When things warm up, then the fighting will resume. And that was tradition. That's generally what happened. Wars were fought during the spring and summer, and then during winter it was too cold, so armies would just hunker down, sometimes even went home. Uh, but not here. Washington bucked tradition, and in the coldest of the cold winters, attacked. In the Battle of Trenton on December 26th, Washington defeated a a strong and powerful garrison of Hessian mercenaries before withdrawing. He actually took the entire town and took all of it. But the British were on the way, and they were probably going to win. So Washington decides, okay, I have to retreat. What do I do? Well, if I retreat after winning the Battle of Trenton, then the spirit will be lost. The whole point of these battles was to A, get weapons and ammunition for the men, and B, to revitalize the cause and people, to make them believe that we can win again. And so he says, well, I can't just retreat without doing anything. So he says, I'm going to retreat, but in this retreat, I'm going to make it an attack as well. I got weapons and ammunition from Trenton. I'm going to retreat from there. The British can come take it. I don't care. I got what I wanted. And I'm going to go attack Princeton. So a week later, it took him about a week to finish this retreat. He returned to Trenton to lure British forces south. And then, as the British were charging at Trenton to attack him, he executed a daring night march. He left in the middle of the night, and he captured Princeton on January 3rd. These victories reasserted American control of much of New Jersey and greatly improved the morale and unity of the colonial army and militias. So he dared the British to come to Trenton after him. And then while they were preparing to cross into Trenton, they burned the bridge, so they had to walk around. While the British were walking around Trenton to go in the only other way to get in, Washington and his whole army leave. And it took the British a while to get into Trenton. And by the time they had got into Trenton, Washington had already taken Princeton. It's an interesting little fact. During the Battle of Princeton, Alexander Hamilton, a man whose name we will hear a lot about in the future, he later becomes the first Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, fired cannons at British troops blockaded in Nassau Hall. That is the main building of the College of New Jersey, now called Princeton University, one of the big Ivy League schools in America. 3 years earlier, Hamilton had applied to this college but been rejected when he asked permission to take courses at his own pace. He'd wanted to graduate early, and so he said, I want to take courses at my own pace. I want to be able to take way more than you're used to. And they said, no, you're not taking this seriously. Go away. So it's kind of funny that the people that rejected him, he blew up those buildings that he had been rejected in. Just a funny little sidebar. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you're doing well.